welcome. For those of you who are new to my channel, this is an offshoot of my blog, Chronically Overdressed. Since I lost my job due to COVID-19, I thought it would be a good time to start doing more videos to accompany my blog. I've been doing a lot of beauty tutorials lately, but I will be doing a lot of videos of my clothing, my outfits, accessories, and even doing an in-depth tour of my dressing room. Of course, all of my videos and posts revolve around my love for vintage style. So I hope you enjoy what we have in store for you. And if you have any suggestions at all for what you'd like to see for my channel or even my blog, please feel free to post below in the comments or send me an email. So today we're actually going to show you my wet set. But first I want to talk to you a little bit about what a wet set is and how it works. So the wet set is the foundation for just about all vintage hairstyles. If you can master this step, you'll be much better equipped to tackle just about any vintage hairstyle you want to achieve. Having a good strong set allows you to have the correct curls, volume, structure for achieving many different styles. For most ladies with care, their set can actually last a week or sometimes longer. If you routinely wet set your hair, you'll find that the process actually becomes a lot easier and the outcome becomes more consistent. Our hair actually has a type of tension memory, and with regular setting, it will easily adapt to the desired shape or direction. So stick with it. I promise you will be rewarded. So I get the question a lot, so what is a wet set, and does my hair actually need to be wet? So while I am not a hairstylist, I am a bit of a geek who likes to know the hows and whys of things and how they're done. So bear with me while I geek out a little bit with some hair science and chemistry. So I often hear people talk about washing their hair and fully drying it, or drying it to 80-90% of the way, and then just spritzing it with setting lotion on their hair and calling it a wet set. Or even for curly-haired girls like myself, washing and drying, whether blow drying or letting it dry naturally, and then sometimes flat ironing their hair and then spritzing it to do, again, kind of a damp set with the rollers. More often than not, I hear about sets like these not giving the desired results. The curls end up falling, they fall flat, or they're just not lasting for very long. So I want to explain why this may not be the best process for you, these damp sets or almost dry sets, if you want a really good, strong, hold wet set. So now for the science. So there are 3 types of bonds that make up our hair: hydrogen bonds, salt bonds, and disulfide bonds. For the purpose of today's lesson, we're going to talk about the hydrogen bonds. So these bonds are the primary bonds responsible for changing our hair's overall shape. These bonds are responsible for up to 30% of the strength and up to 50% of the hair's elasticity. In order to change the shape of your hair, these hydrogen bonds must be broken and then reformed. So these bonds can only be broken with water or heat. So when your hair is saturated with water by shampooing, conditioning, or in the presence of humidity to a certain extent, the molecules that enter the hair fiber, move in and break up the hair's preset hydrogen bonds. And then they'll form new ones once it dries. This is a normal, natural function of the hair. Once you wet your hair and it dries on its own without any intervention from you, it reforms the hydrogen bonds in their natural state. So if you have naturally straight hair, it's going to remain straight. If you have curl to your hair, your natural curl pattern will form. However, a wet set is a prime example of hydrogen bond manipulation. With a true wet set, the hair is stretched around a roller and then molded into a different shape as it dries. As the hair dries on the roller, hydrogen rebonding occurs. So you've wet your hair, you've broken those bonds, you've wrapped it around the roller, and now when it dries, the rebonding occurs. But now it's in that new shape that you have created with the roller. If done properly, the hair will remain in this new shape until it's presented with water again, usually when you wash it or it gets wet. In order to manipulate these bonds, your hair needs to be wet. Spritzing dry hair with setting lotion just doesn't provide enough water to penetrate the hair fiber and break those hydrogen bonds. You need your hair to be wet for the strongest wet set possible. So now that we know a little bit of science about how the hair works, you can see that mostly dry or even a damp set isn't going to give you the strongest curl. It will still curl your hair. It's just not going to give you that nice, strong, longer lasting curl. So as I mentioned, hydrogen bonds can also be manipulated with heat. So if you've washed and dried, let's say you've blow dried your hair and then flat ironed it, you've already manipulated the hair to remain straight. And unless you fully wet your hair again to break those bonds again, you're not going to achieve that strong curl or that curl hold. So think of a time when you've braided your hair when it was fully dry and just put it in a braid. And then think of a time if you've ever done it when your hair's wet and allowed it to dry in that shape. With the dry braid, you're still going to get a little bit of a bend there just because your hair has been in that shape for a period of time. But you get a much stronger bend, a much stronger curl to the hair when you've allowed it to go from wet to dry in that same formation. So this wet set the process is especially important to people with very straight hair that doesn't hold a curl very well. And also for gals like myself with naturally curly hair. Both of these hair types need to have those bonds broken down and reformed or manipulated to give you a good strong curl. Like I said before, you can still do a damp set if your hair takes curl pretty well. You could probably get away with a damp set and have, decent curls. But I encourage you to try a true wet set and see what difference it makes for your hair and for your hairstyles. So it basically is just going to give you a nice strong curl that's going to last a lot longer. When you brush your hair, it's not going to fall out. The curl is not going to fall out. You're going to be able to continue brushing it because you've reformed it into that shape. So I hope this was helpful for you. It took me a really long time to kind of figure out this process, but I do want to say a huge thank you to two people who have been a constant source of inspiration and knowledge to me. My dear friend and vintage hairstyling goddess, Destiny Cushing of Vinspire in New York. And then my own incredibly talented hairstylist in Germany, Liz Webster, for double checking my work and making sure that my information was correct on this subject. She is an absolute genius when it comes to hairstyling. So you both are amazing women, and I'm so thankful to have you in my life. So I really appreciate your help with this. So without further ado, I'm going to show you my wet set, and I hope you enjoy. Over another, I know the Goody brand and I believe Diane are two pretty substantial brands that I've seen. But honestly, I haven't noticed any difference between either one. So sorry, I can't be much more help than that. So we've got our sponge rollers. We have some duckbill clips. We're going to need a few pin curl clips. You can also use bobby pins, but I do prefer the pin curl clips. Our trusty Denman brush. A rat tail comb, and towards the end we're going to use a hairnet. So this is the size and style that I use for this. I love these Jaconet hairnets. This one is black. It doesn't really matter what color it is. You can get them to match your hair color. I've got several in darker colors and browns, depending on what color my hair is. But you want to get either the regular size, or they also have, it says bouffant size. That way it will fit over all of your rollers at the end and hold them in quite nicely. So I'm also going to be using a little bit of this Olaplex number 6, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And I always keep a water bottle on hand to make sure that my hair is nice and wet and saturated. And then, of course, our trusty setting lotion. Now, this is my flaxseed setting lotion that I make myself, and I will put up the recipe for you. So it's very, very simple. It's 1 cup of water and 1 teaspoon of whole flax seeds. Put it in a saucepan, boil it for 5 to 7 minutes. Strain it, let it cool for a little bit, strain it. I like to strain it into a glass bowl, let it sit there for a little while, and then you can just pour it into any spray bottle. This is an old Bumble and Bumble 8-ounce spray bottle that works well for me. Now you can add a little bit more of the flaxseed, or you can boil it for longer, and that will give you a thicker, more gel-like setting lotion. To me, I don't care for that because I can't spray it through here. So some people will do that, and they'll put it in a little bowl and either dip their comb into it or dip their fingers. That's just a little too messy for me. So I prefer to have it a little bit on the thinner side, and this works for me. So this 8-ounce bottle, actually, I double the recipe that I gave. So just 2 cups of water and 2 teaspoons of whole flax seeds, and that will give you this 8-ounce bottle. Keep it in the refrigerator, and this lasts me probably a good month and a half. So, so back to the Olaplex really quick. So I have been using this entire system probably for the last 2 months now. My friend Jessica Saint has requested or recommended that I use this because since I moved to Hawaii, I've been having a really difficult time with frizziness. The humidity here is just relentless, and the wind, my hair has just taken an absolute turn for the worst at times. So she recommended that I do this Olaplex system, and there are 2 products that you can use in the salon. I have not done that yet, but I use the number 3, which is a pre-treatment. You do that before you shampoo and conditioner. So the shampoo is number 4, the conditioner is number 5. And then there's this number 6 bond smoother. And basically the whole process is to help to smooth the cuticles in your hair. It helps to rebond the disulfide bonds and keep everything nice and smooth so you don't have as much frizz. And I have been noticing a difference. It's been a couple of months, like I said, since I've started using it. And I love this bond smoother a lot. I use it before I put in my rollers, and then I'll use it maybe once or twice during my set when my hair is dry. And it really does kind of help just smooth everything down, calm everything down. I mean, with humidity, once the humidity hits your hair, it doesn't really matter what you're using. It's gonna get frizzy no matter what, especially when you have naturally curly hair like mine. So But this does help a lot. My hair feels a lot stronger. It feels much softer. So I am really liking it. So just kind of to start off with, with my wet set, it does take my hair about 24 hours to dry fully, depending upon how humid it is outside. It can take a little bit longer than that. I try really hard not to use heat on my hair, but I do have a bonnet dryer, and if I'm pressed for time, or if I, just don't want to wait the 24 hours, I can sit under the bonnet for probably about 3 hours with my wet set, and I will be completely dry. Again, I try really hard not to use heat on my hair because it is so damaging. My hair tends to be dry anyway, so I would rather not do that. Or occasionally, if it has been really humid out and I've done a wet set, I've still waited the 24 hours, I'll sit under the dryer when I'm doing my makeup. So I'll have a good 20-25 minutes or so under the dryer just to give it that really good punch of dryness, just to make sure that my hair is completely dry when I take it out, because I don't want to lose that curl for taking it out too soon. So let me show you what my hair looks like when it's wet. So as you can see, it's pretty curly already on its own. When I dry it, or when I wear it natural, which is not very often, it dries in super tight ringlets. And then naturally curly hair, you can see, does not have any sort of curl pattern that is uniform. They go in all different directions. So if I were to set my hair or let it dry either naturally or even with a diffuser and allow my natural curl to come out, and then try to brush it out into a vintage style, my hair would be out to here. I would be a huge frizz ball, and of course that is not the look that we're going for. So having a wet set for my type of hair is essential to guide the curl into the curl pattern that we want. So I'm gonna spritz it a little bit with water. I want to make sure I'm keeping my hair pretty wet even while I'm talking. But I want to show you what my haircut looks like. So I have a horseshoe haircut. I don't have any layers. And it has been a while since I've actually had my hair cut, so it's quite long. I did measure it the other day when it was wet, and from the nape of my neck down, it was 10 inches. So that's pretty long for me. I like to keep it probably around 8 inches or so, but since I didn't get in with my hairdresser before the lockdown, just gonna have to deal. So as you can see on this side here is a little bit easier. You can see this angle that's starting right here, and that creates that horseshoe look. So in the back, you'll see it's kind of a U shape. Sometimes my hair actually goes more in a V shape, and I have to get my previous hairdresser and I deemed this the reverse undercut, to try to undercut that a little bit. You don't want it cut completely up, but just a few inches so you can even out that, so it's not so much of a V. You want that U shape, that horseshoe shape. So I don't have bangs, but I do have it cut with this angle. You can see as it starts to come out of the hairbrush. So since my part is on this side, she does this nice angle cut this way here. So I don't actually have any bangs. I don't have any layers. it's all essentially one, well, it's not one length, but you know what I mean. So let me show you the back really quick, and hopefully you can see that it's a horseshoe. So that's pretty much it. This is the best cut that that I have found for my hair. I've had midi cuts, and just layers in my hair are not good. Naturally curly hair and layers can be pretty detrimental to or problematic for curly hair. It just kind of makes our hair go a little bit crazy everywhere. But the midi cut is a really good cut. It really helps the hair stay in a nice vintage style. It helps the curls. The problem with the midi cut is that it is so heavily layered that you have to set your hair all the time. Wearing it down, it's not a wash and go type of haircut. It ends up looking more mullety than anything, so you really do have to set it. And if you're not willing to do that or not wanting to do that, I highly recommend just getting yourself a horseshoe cut. That way you don't have any layers. You can wear it straight if you want. You can wear it down without, you can still do modern hairstyles if you wish. I think this is a much more versatile cut. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about sectioning your hair and patterns as well. So I get a lot of questions about whether you actually need a pattern, if you need to section your hair, and I mean the answer is really no. You don't have to do any of that. There's really no rules when it comes to that. However, patterns and sectioning your hair is going to create a guide. It's going to create a lot more structure for your curl. So for me, sectioning the hair just makes things so much easier. So taking those couple extra steps to section off your hair properly really makes things so much faster and easier for me. So it might seem like a few extra steps and a little bit more difficult to do, but for me, it gets the hair where I want it. It gets it out of the way when I'm not using, that section of the hair. And it also creates that guide. If you think of guidelines and, any kind of patterns, it's a structure for your hair. It creates the guide for your curl. So patterns, you mostly see patterns with pin curls. And that's really just showing you which direction the pin curl should be going. So for example, for the fringe section, if you do a pin curl, if you do like standing pin curls going one way, and then the next row you go the other way, and the next row you go the other way, you're actually going to create this wave. So that's how you get that wave in the front. And I'll show you actually another way to do that with rollers later on. But so hair patterns, sectioning patterns, rolling patterns are more prevalent with pin curls, but you can definitely use them also with sponge rollers, with hot rollers. I just find them to be, I like a little bit more of a structured curl. You can absolutely haphazardly put in your rollers any which way you want. You don't have to have a pattern. You don't have to have them in rows. You can put them in any way you want, and you're going to get curls. And if you do a true wet set, you're going to get nice, strong curls. I personally like to have a little bit more structure with that. I am trying to create a wave in my hair all the way around. And that's what these patterns are going to give me. So I personally like to roll from the bottom up. It's easier for me. It's gives me a little bit more control over where my rollers are going to be setting. I rolled them from top down because that's what everybody did, and that's what I kept seeing on tutorials. And I kept struggling with it. And so I decided one day just to try to do it rolling from bottom up. And it made things so much easier. My rows were much more clean, and it was just so much easier for me to do that way. I also, in the back, I do horizontal sections. So when I section off my hair, I'll section the sides, the crown, and then I'll leave the back down. And I take horizontal sections instead of 3 vertical sections. You'll see that a lot in tutorials. You'll have one section here, one section in the back, and one section on this side. And that totally works. For me, having horizontal sections keeps the rollers all in line next to each other. Much, much easier and much better than trying to line them up doing vertical rolls or vertical sections and trying to line them up that way. So doing them horizontally for me just works really, really well. So I'm going to go ahead and section off my hair. Actually, before that, I am going to put some of this Olaplex in. I like to do it in 2 stages since I have so much hair and it's so thick. I'll section off this bottom part, put in a little bit. And again, this is just a bonding solution. It helps to smooth the hair out, smooth that cuticle. Okay, so now we're going to section off the hair. So I pretty much do it in 3 sections. I do the small side, large side, and then just the rest of the back. And then I section each horizontal line as I go up. So we'll start with the small side. So this is where I've got my part naturally. And I'm just going to go right here at the crown and section it all the way to the back of my ear. So you can see there. And then I just twist it up and I make this little kind of donut twist here and just clip it aside. And then we want to make that equal on this side as well. So we're just going to take it from the crown to right behind the ear and section that off as well. So for this set, I'm going to be doing a wave along this side. So that's why I'm taking this entire section here. I will section it off even more once we get to that point. But if you're doing a 40s or 50s set, you might want to just section this off separately, because this bang section or this fringe section here is all going to get rolled back. But for mine right now, I'm actually going to roll everything down this way. So same thing, just kind of roll it up, get it out of your way as much as possible. Okay, so then that just leaves this back section. So as I mentioned, I like to roll from the bottom up. So I just use my thumb to section things off horizontally, you absolutely can use your rat tail comb if that's easier for you. I've been doing this for a while, so I feel like it's much easier for me just to do it by feel using my thumb. But whatever works for you. Try it both ways, see how it works. So I basically want to try and take kind of 1-inch sections all the way up to my crown. So I'm just going to do this by feel. So I'm going to take this section here. I'm going to run my finger all the way across the back. And just clip this section up out of the way. So now you have your horizontal section this way. Then I'm going to further section this off in 3 sections. Left side, right side, and middle. And these are going to be my 3 rollers. So I'm going to start with this side. So I spray each section with my setting lotion, and I take my rat tail comb and I brush it through. That helps to distribute the setting lotion all the way through, and it also helps to flatten my hair, because when you roll it, you want to make sure that it is flat like a ribbon. You don't want twisting in the hair. That will give you a different kind of curl, and one that I am not going for right now. So you take your hair, you just run it flat along, and you want to make sure that your ends are getting tucked under this whole roll. And just gently roll it all the way up. Make sure that it's all the way up to your scalp, and just click it in. So making sure that your ends are tucked under is essential. If your ends are kind of hanging out of the roller, or if they happen to kind of get stuck hanging out of the little clip area, they're going to create what we call fish hooks. And when they dry in that position, they are almost impossible to fix. And you end up getting this kind of crazy, frizzy fish hook, kind of crimped end, and it'll ruin your entire set. So you definitely don't want to do that. So the other thing you want to make sure that you're doing is that you're not actually putting tension on the roller when you're rolling it up. You want to make sure that you're not squishing it like this when you're rolling it up. So do you see how small that is? That's going to give you a much tighter, smaller curl, and I don't want that. I chose these size rollers because that is the diameter of the curl that I want. So if you just gently hold it there, you can hold the ends and just with your 2 hands, just kind of walk it up. You won't get that extra tension on there. Squishing it down is just going to take it right down to the base, and that's just not, you'll also lose some of the uniformity of your curl, because if you notice, some of your hair is going to be right here and some of it's going to be on this end. So you're going to have this kind of hourglass look to your curl, and it's not a good look. now we've got all three of these rollers. They're all pretty uniform within that section, and that's going to help create that wave going all the way up. You've got all of your rows will be pretty uniform. So for the next section, same thing. You're just going to go up about an inch or so. A little bit farther. Take your finger all the way around. And you can probably feel where this one here ended, so you can use that as a guide if you want, to make sure that each of your three sections in the back are as uniform as possible. Probably a good time for me to speed things up for you. Okay, so for some reason, it's probably the shape of my head or whatever, but I always end up with this extra section here on top. So I normally have 5 rolls going this way, 5 rolls going this way, and then 6 in the middle. So I have no idea why this happens, but I have an extra section that I always have on the top of my head. So one of the things I want to show you about all of these rollers on this top section, so do you see this bar right here? So that's obviously there to help secure the roller in your hair. But if I left it the way it is, it's going to create a crimp right there. It's going to create a dent. So if you noticed how the hair is kind of coming this way and then rolling out that way, so it's actually going to do that as it dries, and I don't want that. So I want to get rid of that crimp right there. And how you do that is you take that bar and you just roll it down right there. Now you see you've got this nice uniform curl. So it's going to form so much better and look really nice. So by moving that bar though, I've made it a little bit more insecure. So this is going to just flop around. So I need to secure this onto my scalp. And that's where your little pin curl clips are going to come in handy. You can also use a bobby pin, but I actually like these because of this little end piece. It's a lot easier to find and it's just easy to grab out. The bobby pin tends to, once the hair dries, my hair dries, it tends to kind of get lost in there. So now that we've secured that right there in, I'll show you in one of these, you're just taking the bar and you're taking that clip and going straight through and you're attaching it to your hair right on that side there. So I'm going to do that with every single one of these up on the top of every section. And that's because this is the most visible part of your hair. All of these other curls, this crimp is actually beneficial. This crimp helps to define that curl, that wave. So you'll have the crimp and curl, crimp and curl, crimp and curl, and that's actually creating that kind of wave pattern. But for this top one, I really want to try and have as smooth a crown as possible. So again, just move that down and just take your pin curl clip and just, I like to kind of come in from the side and there. And now he's nice and secure. They're not going anywhere. Okay, so now we're going to work on this small side. So I use 3 rollers on this side, and I try to match them up with these 3 rollers here. And that will help to, again, uniformly create that wave that I'm trying to do here. So with my rat tail comb, I kind of go along where that other roller is, and I just try to match that up as evenly as possible. Now, if you do have a midi cut or a horseshoe cut that has angles for right here, this can get a little tricky because you have these differing lengths here. So normally you would take your roller out to the very end and start rolling from there. But as you can see, you just kind of lose the hair. So take it to where the shortest layer is. Lay it flat on your roller and then just roll the end around. This is actually a really good technique for when your hair is really long as well, as long as you are making sure, again, that those ends are tucked in. So if your hair is really long, obviously your arms are only a certain length. So if you want to kind of take it part of the way, roll, make sure that you're keeping that ribbon, that flat hair, and just roll it that way, tucking those ends under, and then go ahead and roll up. So again, I'm taking right where that second roller is, trying to match that up. And we're going to flip the bar on this one as well, because again we want to create that nice smooth curl. Okay. Okay, now we're on to the big side. So even though all of these are going to be rolled down this way, I still like to section this fringe section off because I feel like it just helps with the guide as well. And remember, if you wanted to do a more 40s or 50s look that has a little bit more height, then you would take this section and just roll all these back and down. And that would give you a nice bit of height there. It's a good start of that S curl or that S wave that you can achieve. But I'm going all the way down because I want the waves to go this way. So with this set, I am creating waves. And I feel like this set works really, really well for me, especially when you're doing the horizontal sectioning. But if for some reason you're still not getting the waves that you want, you can try doing an alternating set or alternating rollers. This works really well for pin curls. So you would roll going one way on one row and then the other way, the other row, and the other way and back that way. And that will help to create the wave. So you can do that also with rollers. So you would, this one is rolled down like normal, and then you would take this side, or this next row, you always do it in rows. This is a little bit more tricky, I will say. So you're going to place the roller on top of your hair this way, and you're going to roll up. And of course I'm losing a bunch of hair. Now, once you clip it, this is going to fall. So here you need, again, those either pin curl clips or a bobby pin, and you're going to need to secure that bar to your hair. There. So it's a little bit more secure. So now you have one roller going this way, one roller going this way. Your next roller would be going this way. So if you're going to do your whole head, you're going to need to have odd number of rollers. So let's say if we have 5 here. So I would start at the bottom rolling down and then go up, and end with down. That way you have, again, this nice uniform curl. If you ended with it going up, your curl is going to start in this direction, and you don't want that on the top. So you definitely want to have an odd number of rollers and start with down, end with down. So that's another good way of trying to get that wave if for some reason this set doesn't work for you to achieve that wave. So I'm going to take this out because I actually don't want to roll my hair that way. Okay, so even though this roller is actually the top part, because these rollers are going to go this way, I'm not going to flip the bar on this. If I had shorter bangs, then I probably would, because even though I'm rolling everything in this direction, if I had shorter bangs, they'd probably end around here anyway, and I might want to go ahead and turn that bar just so I don't have that crimp. But my hair's pretty long, so it's all going to cover and go in the same direction. But with that said, this section, because it is kind of my bang section, I do want to go ahead and turn the bar for all 3 of these rollers going that way. And that just, again, gives it a smoother look, since this is the top of my head and it's more visible. So I'm going to section this off in 3 parts. bar. I'm actually going to re-roll this guy because okay, so there's our set. Everything is rolled down. I've got this side rolled this way, this side rolled this way, and then everything rolled down, and hopefully I've got some nice, good, even sections here to create the waves when I brush it out. So I will leave my hair like this until it dries, obviously, which is typically about 24 hours. It has been incredibly humid here lately, so it might take a little bit longer than that, but I like to use a hair net when I sleep at night. That way it has good airflow. Putting a scarf on, although silk scarves are great, they tend to just fall off my head unless I secure them. So, and I feel like they smush my curlers a little bit more. So I like to use these invisible hair nets. They say they're invisible. They're not invisible. I have one brand that is actually pretty invisible, and it holds really, really well. So I just like to use this to kind of gather everything up, and it keeps it all nice and secure when I go to sleep. You absolutely can put on a headscarf on top of this if you wish, and if you feel like you need a little bit more security with keeping all of the rollers in there, then you can absolutely do that. But I find that these scarves work, or these hair nets work really, really well. They keep everything nice and tight. And you know, you get the lovely lunch lady look too. So the other thing I wanted to say was, with a hairnet, I can actually create this this lovely, I don't know if you can see this, but this lovely dent right here. And with my hair rolled this way and that dent there, it actually creates this kind of wave, something that I've always wanted to achieve, but pin curls are really the only way that I've seen to achieve it, and I just can't do pin curls in my hair. My hair's too long, it's too thick. Pin curls are just not gonna work for me. So once I started using a hairnet and it kind of accidentally created this little dent here, I loved it. And so now when I take my rollers out, I have this dent in addition to the wave, so it kind of creates that faux wave right in the front of my hair. So anyway, I hope this was helpful, and you will see my brush out once it's completely dry. I will do a full brush out for you so you can see how everything turned out. But I encourage you to continue to do wet sets. Try them as wet as you possibly can. Take this time now that we're self-isolating to just let your hair dry naturally. See how long it takes. My hair is incredibly thick, and I know 24 hours sounds like a really long time, but you know, if I wash my hair in the evening and put it into rollers, I'll sleep with it, and then the next day I'll just wear a scarf or a turban, and no one is the wiser. I actually get more compliments when I wear a scarf or a turban, and they have no idea that I've got rollers in my hair. I've gone to work with rollers in my hair with a scarf on, and nobody knows. If you're doing pin curls, or if you have smaller rollers, you can actually get away with it even more, because you know, this creates a little bit of volume, but with a scarf on, you can kind of tamp it down a little bit. So I really encourage you to try the wet sets and see if you can get a longer, stronger hold with a true wet set rather than a damp set, or just spritzing your hair with setting lotion. So keep doing it. Your hair is going to love you for it. Trust me, not washing my hair every day. Haven't done that in probably 20 years. So my hair is a lot healthier. It's happier now that I don't wash it every day. And you know, just keep trying it. Trust me, I think you'll really enjoy what the wet set can do for you, and the different hairstyles that you'll be able to achieve with a strong wet set. So thanks again. Please like and subscribe, and let me know if you have any questions at all. I'm happy to help, and we'll see you in about 24 hours for my brush out. Thanks.